Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the warm introduction. I'm happy to be here today. So let me go ahead and take it away and share my screen so we can begin our talk. So hopefully everyone can see that.
Yes.
And so my name's Grant Boquet. I'm one of the researchers here at Zhejiang Lab, and I'm part of the GeoGPT team. So GeoGPT is a large language, or it's an AI system for doing earth sciences. And I'm going to talk to you about some of the development that we've done over the past, couple of years. So GeoGPT aims to put into the hands of geoscientists AI capabilities that previously, didn't really exist. Um, and in doing so, it also tries to make these capabilities open to the broader scientific community and to people that wouldn't have access to these sort of sophisticated tools. We aim to promote sharing, collaboration, and just overall, scientific discovery. It looks like many of these common AI chatbots, but behind the scenes, there's actually a lot going on that makes it specifically tuned to geoscience. Now, GeoGPT is actually part of a broader ecosystem that's developed here at Zhejiang Lab. We call it Zero to X. So Zero to X encompasses other AI models, such as ones for astronomy, for biology, and then we also have our own internal Zero to One foundation model, which is um, uh, a science foundation model. Now, GeoGPT is designed to take advantage of all of the great development going on in the AI community. So rather than trying to compete with it, we actually bring the best ideas in and build on top of them. So at the base, you can see here there are some foundation models. Some of them are pretty well known, like DeepSeek and Qwen, Llama, Mistral, and so on. And then on top of this, we actually fine tune these models on geoscience data, and we go through some regiments so that way they're able to perform more complex geoscience tasks and look at things like maps and whatnot. A lot of our time gets spent building these tools, which make the AI models accessible to the broader community to perform complex tasks that are typically very time consuming. So I'll go through these in detail later on, but at the top layer here, you can see some of the research tools that are available. The way that GeoGPT is optimized is actually quite sophisticated. So we've created our own data sets built off of the open source community. So these are publicly available papers. We've held workshops where geoscientists have come to Zhejiang Lab and helped us create data sets. And then we take both of these types of data as well as data that we've constructed during our own labeling and hand tuning process. And then we use all of this together to optimize GeoGPT to perform geoscience tasks. It'll become clear later on when you see some of the applications where this fine tuning is coming into play. So one of the sources on the left here is Common Crawl, and this is augmented though by a lot of data and papers which are also open source geoscience related papers, the open access papers. And then, as well as this, there's also the workshop QA pairs that I had mentioned, which is about 200,000 question answer pairs. We actually go through a pretty elaborate process of filtering out content to make sure that we're not using anything we shouldn't be. So only the data which is open access is used. And so anything where it's fair game, we use it. And whenever you have cases where certain journals are restricted or certain papers are restricted, then we won't use them. As I mentioned, GeoGPT is about 2 years old. I guess you could say in 5 days or so, it'll be 2 years old. The Over the past 2 years, it's grown almost exponentially, I think, in terms of both the scope of problems that it can handle and also in terms of accuracy in a lot of domains. You can see the sort of development taking place over time and the accuracy improving. So, for certain problems, it's improved 10, 20%. In other cases, it's improved by 40%, 50%. The accuracy is sort of something that is variable because we constantly are increasing our data sets to include more encompassing tasks and to make sure that all of the questions and the things that we're addressing are relevant to current day researchers. As I mentioned before, we have a commitment to open science, and so we try to make things available when we can. So the data sets that I mentioned, that those are available. So the QA pairs, the list of data that we use to train the model, the model weights, and some of the components such as our RAG system and embedding. Those are all publicly available for certain because the training of the model is somewhat fluid, and we essentially are pulling in the most recent developments. We have to make sure that before we put stuff on the internet, that we are not violating any of the fair use or license requirements for the other models that we're using. So the release process is a bit slow, but it's essentially uh, kind of best practice for this area to sort of move to release source code at a somewhat slower rate than we release the models. But you can expect as time progresses that more and more of the components from GeoGPT will be open source as they become more documented and verified for licensing uh, legality. Now, another component here is governance. So GeoGPT is not just a bunch of grad students and postdocs working together to put out a geoscience system. While that is a big part of it, you also have that the community as a whole helps govern GeoGPT. And this is done through the governance committee. So GeoGPT's governance committee consists of some of the world's leading experts in their respective fields. Many are previous presidents and other types of leaders from geological societies and geological surveys. Our two co-chairs are John Ludden and Richard Hookla. John Ludden was the previous chair of the British Geological Survey, and Richard Hookla is a previous VP from ExxonMobil and uh, I think a dean from Texas A&M. So the members of this committee play a pivotal role in making sure that not only are we above board when it comes to like legal and ethical issues, but that all of the types of questions that the community wants addressed and are interested in are addressed. And also, they help us make sure that we're moving in the right direction. So all of our research is relevant to the community. We're really blessed to have so many extraordinary people helping us and being active participants in making sure that GeoGPT can actually grow into a grassroots effort. We get a lot of questions. These are some of the things that come up a lot. I think one of the biggest ones that you can imagine is because GeoGPT is developed at Zhejiang Lab, there's some concern about censorship or ethics or things like this. But you have to kind of keep in mind that it's developed by scientists, and scientists, like in general, are kind of how would you say, we kind of hold ourselves to a higher standard when it comes to ethics and trying to seek the truth. And ultimately, I believe that that's what we're all sort of doing. So there's not really much in the way of that you can imagine where we do anything that is not standard practice throughout the world. The only thing that is sort of different is we have to comply with different like censoring restrictions and things like that. And those tend to actually be not government required. They're just more of like an ethical requirement. So like we have some tests that we do to make sure that people don't upload child pornography, that we don't participate in helping people do illegal things like killing people or other, other sorts of stuff like that. And we do this not by us looking at the model, but by actual or looking at user output, but by using AI models to do this checking. So if you are interested, you can check out the FAQ and you can see some of these things. But a lot of the answers that you'll find are just ones where you can see GeoGPT just tries to follow best practices and do what is generally what would broadly be considered the right thing to do. So now I'll go into some core capabilities. This should be the exciting stuff. One of the parts that I'm perhaps most excited about, it's not just because I lead the development of it, but it's because it's what makes GeoGPT sort of very special, is my library. So my library is a way of customizing GeoGPT to focus on the content that's interesting to you. You can upload papers, PDFs, PowerPoints, Word documents, things like that to your library. Now, what happens is when you register for an account with GeoGPT, what we do is we make a separate personal account for you at Ali Cloud, and then this is managed by Alibaba, which so if you're located outside of China, it puts it in the appropriate place for you. And if you're located within China, then there's a separate place. So if you go to the two different domains, you'll see this difference. So outside of China, Alibaba makes a special cloud account for you, and it does all of the requirements that they're supposed to do or uphold. So you don't have to worry about when you upload stuff to my library that you're releasing it to the public or anything like that. It's essentially like your own personal cloud drive. So any papers that you download that you're interested in, even if they're paywall papers, you can put them in my library, and it's the same as just having it on a cloud drive. Once they're there, it will actually process a custom database for you. And so it takes all of the content and then it extracts it and organizes it. So it will integrate it into your own personal GeoGPT. So anytime you ask a question, you have a database internally that gets referenced and it'll pull out the references and show them to you. But you don't have to be afraid that it's training on it or anything like that. It's just that that's your own personal history that it's relying on. So what's great about this is even if you're not interested in geoscience, GeoGPT will turn your instance of GeoGPT into something that's more geared towards what you're interested in. This could be chemistry, biology, math, anything. Um, Now, another part is that it allows you to extract and share knowledge. So you can take a paper and you can go through and start pulling out a knowledge graph. You can share it with your colleagues. You can make a little team within GeoGPT of people that can have access to both your papers and your knowledge graphs. This allows you to extract information and track its pedigree and share it with the broader community. One of the highlights, I think, of this tool is that we've used it to construct a petroleum science ontology and knowledge graph that has been shared with the broader community online. Um, Now, besides just these kind of like core capabilities for which are sort of separate from geoscience, we also have geoscience focused abilities. One of these is map chat. This is you can drop a map in and you can extract information from it. You can export it as a shapefile, and you can combine them into multiple to make like multiple shapefiles to make a more complicated map. And then we also have this map generator, which is you can create maps just by talking with GeoGPT. And then we also have some tools which are geared towards what I would consider to be cutting edge research. One of these, which is really cool, is the idea generator. So imagine that you just had like the citation list for a paper, and you want it to create the paper from scratch. That's essentially what the idea generator does. You can drop in a question that has not been answered by the broader scientific community, and it will actually propose to you novel ways of solving that problem. What's really cool about this is it's quantitative. So it takes this idea, it hypothesizes a solution, it plays it out to see how it would actually perform, and then it goes back and it does this a bunch of times. It picks the best ones, and then it presents them to you. So you can actually look at these various ideas, and it can help you noodle around and see what you want to do. The deep discovery, on the other hand, is more of like a deep an AI personal assistant that will go out into the literature and perform an incredibly comprehensive literature review. So you can ask anything about a question and it writes a detailed report. And it does this through a process of breaking down questions multiple times, compiling them and doing it over and over until it reaches a consensus that it's fairly exhausted what's available. So you can see here the process that it goes through for helping you do research. You have this knowledge base that is custom to you. That's your My Library. You can use Deep Discovery to interact with it. You can then use that to generate some ideas. Once you have some ideas, you can go back to some papers and you can extract some information. You can you can then take this and you maybe plan out some experiments. You can go run some models and tools. We have an agent system that I have yet to talk about where you can chain together complex models into a comprehensive AI system. You can go through a virtuous loop of doing this over and over to help you accelerate the scientific R&D cycle. So GeoGPT helps you along each of these steps. So I'm going to show you now how this works. So one of these cool things is just for extracting data. So imagine that you have some papers and you want to extract some data from them. So you can drop papers into My Library, pick them out. And then once you've extracted some facts, you can easily look at the graph associated with it, and then you can modify that. I'll let the video play twice, I think, so you can see some of these things. So the process these days for doing a lot of things is the models write code, and that code is then run, and then more questions are asked, code is written, it runs, and so on. So it's not like the old AI models where you just did one pass of a question. Whenever you ask a question, there's actually a bunch of steps involved, and GeoGPT will do all of those. So it helps you take documents, extract data from those documents, and analyze that data. So what's going on here is extracting data from a table or from some papers, and then being in a form that you can edit it and you can track its pedigree. Now, based on this data, you can then start doing some analysis. And then what it's going to do is make a plan for you. And then based on that, it'll generate some code to do some analysis and then create a report. So that's essentially what we've gone through here. It kind of looks almost futuristic in a way, but you don't have to, I mean, think that this is doing something magical behind the scenes or whatever. A lot of the steps involved are actually quite straightforward, and it's doing fairly routine analysis. So that's why it is able to do it. Now, MapChat is what I had mentioned earlier. It's this tool for helping geoscientists analyze maps. Now, there are different types of ways that you can analyze maps, but you could just drop a map in and ask some questions about it. But one of the more common things that happens is that you want to take like 50 maps or 100 maps and you want to extract detailed information from them, digitize it, and then compile it into a larger data set and then analyze that data and write some papers about it. So both you could imagine both of these things. Your GeoGPT is used by consultants, geoscience consultants that use it to just analyze one-off things. And then it's used by researchers that are systematically collecting data, extracting it, and compiling it, and then doing analyses with it and sort of meta-analyses. Now, the way that it works is we take the input and we extract some of the basic information from it. This involves some segmentation and OCR. Now, this gets fed into two different types of models. One is a visual QA model, and then the other is just the regular text model. There's a comprehensive representation, so we can actually use information from both of these models, and then you can ask questions about the content. So, like as an example here, you can see one of the things that it relies on is finding a legend. So GeoGPT will find the legend within a paper within a figure, and then once it does so, it actually segments out the different layers, digitizes them, and then keeps those separate. So you can then extract them and use them. So this is an example of using it for some various things. Now, for this particular question, there's no latitude and longitude on the map. But because we're talking about fairly well-known cities, um, when you ask GeoGPT to describe the map, it looks at the overall structure of it, and then it puts together a latitude and longitude range based off of what's inside the map. Now, that on its own, I have to tell you, it seems like it would be easy. It is not very easy. So that's quite an amazing step there. Once it's done that, it then identifies all the various parts in the map. So you can see like it's singling out the cities. That's pretty much how it's able to identify the latitude and longitude and the scale of the map. So now once you've done that, you can extract some of this information. Like here, extracting the latitude and longitude. Now you can ask questions about it, such as generate a caption for me, right? So it'll look at what's inside the map, and then you can, it'll summarize what the map's contents is. And then this one's kind of cool. Explain why there's so many mineral elements. If you can see, there's gold, lead, molybdenum, iron, copper, and tungsten. And then it'll analyze this and then explain what's going on. So GeoGPT, this has this feature that allows you to both use geoscience knowledge from its training, geoscience knowledge from the maps you provided, and geoscience knowledge from the information you provided through my library. What will come back is a complex explanation of why there's so many mineral elements in the area. Oh, okay. Now, the map chat feature has gone through various improvements over time. And one of the cool improvements that we've done is a lot of this training to perform more specific geoscience tasks, focusing on geoscience data and so on. So you can see just in comparison to some baseline models, GeoGPT is able to outperform in certain data sets in comparison to other types of models. But more recently, we've upgraded to a visual reasoning model, and with that, we've got some enhanced accuracy. We build this on top of Qwen 3, but but at the same time, even though it's able to perform some tasks better, you have to also look at the visual reasoning is taking place over both a broad collection of data sets. So the different tasks have different performance. With the map generator, this one is taking something which is a pretty complex task that normally is quite intricate, where you have to use different mapping software, you have to load data, and you have to display it in a particular way. And it tries to abstract this so that way it's no longer as tedious. I mean, I'm more of a person that writes code to generate maps, but um, if you use Excel or if the generate maps using this complex mapping software, you'll notice that different types of software has there's a variety of APIs for doing so. And so something that can abstract this away and make it easier to create maps is definitely welcome. So Map Generator does this by allowing you to take pretty well-known file formats like shapefiles, TIFFs, GeoJSON, KMLs, and so on. You can drop them into the map generator, and then you can do all of these manipulations and you can select layers and things like this. But most of it can be done through text. So you don't have to do anything specific to that map format. You can do things like changing the title, changing colors, and so on. But you can also select layers and you can select what you want to visualize. So I'm going to show you an example here where we can take these four different parts of the map and we can do some adjustments. So when we drop in there's four different data files were uploaded, and then now we can do some manipulations to them. So you can see these are some different areas on the map where our data is located. So we have different regions. So we can zoom into one of them. And then once we've zoomed into this region here, it's just displaying some of the data that we've uploaded. So you turn the layer off and on. And then these are the different components inside the layer or the shapefile that we've added. So all of that is just doing the manipulation with the GUI. The idea here is to make a tool which is for both professional cartographers, general researchers, and also can be just used as a regular agent. So you can use this in a larger API or a larger system um, to create maps automatically. Now, we kind of look at this as the next generation for mapping, where data is sort of collected in a large open repository, and that the map generator it can reach into this repository and grab the data that's relevant. You can ask questions about the data and sort of reason about it for things that would be, for instance, like design plans for a park or a school. And you want to make sure that while you're building the school, that you minimize the impact on the local wildlife. And maybe there's some birds or different types of critters that come in at different times of the year. And GeoGPT can look at migration patterns. It can look at all of the different complicated aspects of how the environment is interacting with your project. And you can use that to sort of minimize the impact on the environment, or you can use it to optimize processes and so on. So it really is a sort of next level of where we see GIS modeling going. And because we abstract away a lot of this with MCP, it can interact easily with other services. And I'll go into detail with this with our agent builder, but all of the tools in GeoGPT can interact with other AI tools, and then you can chain them together to do more complex tasks. Um, so one of them, for instance, would be like doing 3D visualization. And this is an example of that. Like you can do 3D slicing and 3D visualization in GeoGPT as well. So it can reach out into other data sets, such as like 3D slices of the Earth. Now, for data extraction, I mentioned this earlier with one quick example. We'll dive into this deeper. There's different ways of extracting data, but the easy way that you can imagine is that there's a table or plot or something like that. This one is more subtle. This is imagine that you have data that's spread out in the document in some sort of format like this, where we're talking about the taxonomy of different organisms. We want to take this and it's broken down into these different components, like the fossil name, the document it came from, geographic extent, distinguishing characteristics, the fossil name and references, and so on. What it does is it'll actually identify these different components and then allow and automatically extract it into a table. And so you can get all of these different fields out as a CSV file or Excel file. This is the part that's actually pretty hard and quite miraculous because the data is semi-structured, but not in an obvious way. And learning how to do this is one of the things that our team has spent the last year developing in earnest. But also, I mean, we can digitize contents from a table as well. So if you have a paper and you select a table, you can easily export this to my library or just digitize it and download it as a JSON file. It turns out that there's some benefit to training on geoscience specific terms and this type of data structure because it improves the performance significantly. Because it allows us to optimize on structures which are not particularly common in the broader that large language models are typically trained on. And so we can achieve much higher accuracy. For example, when we look at two fields like shale oil and geomagnetism, the data extraction is significantly more accurate than the standard models that you sort of get off the shelf without specializing. And the process for putting all of this together is it's kind of straightforward, I think, if you think about how it would work. But you take a document, you end up having models which identify different structures, and then based on those structures, you have different processes for doing the extraction and then the layout. There's some error handling to check to see whenever the model's doing stuff that can you can easily detect is not performing correctly, and then it can go back and it can retry it over and over. So ultimately, you have something which can do some self-correction in a modest form and can be tuned. So I'll give you a demonstration now of that. So we're taking a paper, we upload it, and then now once we go to this paper, we can go to the extractor, we select some files, and then it goes through the files and gets the different columns. We select the columns we want, and we take an entry and see, you can look at the entry in the paper and you can see where it came from and you can make modifications to it. And then afterwards, you can extract, save it out. So this is a process which normally would be very cumbersome. Just really think about it. You don't have to type all this stuff out. So it extracts it, organizes it for you, and keeps track of where it got it from. So whenever you're trying to go through and do some checking, all of the lineage of that information can be tracked. Now, the agent builder is something where the AI community is currently, I think, focused a lot on doing agent development and sort of complex agent optimization. There are two different types of agents. One is autonomous agents, where you just kind of you have a prompt, you tell it to do something. There's some basic task where maybe it's going to extract some data or something like that, and you can kind of see this work. And then there's these workflow agents where you chain together agents in a complex to perform a complex task. So you can see in this particular case, it's like various calls to different websites, running some code, calling different types of large language models, processing their output, and so on. So you can make complex or agents which are fairly compact, and then you can combine them into much larger systems. So here's an example of the agent builder and GeoGPT at play. You can truly drag and drop and draw the agents that you want to build. Pretty cool. Like you can see an HTTP request, run some code, call a model, take the model's output, do some other stuff, and so on. With that in hand, we actually have built a model now that can process images and text. So you can drop in an image and then you can ask stuff about the image, and it'll use both to resolve whatever it is that you're asking. So the agent builder was released up in November or the end of October. And since then, we've had about 2,600 users uh, build various agents. We're not entirely sure what they've built with them, but we've had some of the people have reached out to us for help. And so through communication with them and sort of helping them debug their own problems, we can see some of the diversity of problems being built out there, and it's pretty impressive. So it's definitely a quickly growing ecosystem, and I've been in touch with like various professors that are now using GeoGPT to teach their courses, and they're having their students build agents as homework assignments. The idea that we have for GeoGPT is that there's this kind of like a development process where you have a researcher doing research, you have a team doing research, and you can have this group of people spread out over the world doing research. And we want to provide some tools that help them more efficiently do their job at all stages. And overall, I find that GeoGPT does this by helping people both perform fairly mundane tasks that normally would take a lot of time, but can be draining, and it can automate those for you. But then also, it allows you to take certain tasks and break them into chunks and distribute them out across a community of people. And then you can work together on doing things like data analysis, data preparation, and then afterwards, like paper writing. Now, I'm going to go through some use cases quickly. So, not in great detail, but one of the areas that GeoGPT has had a lot of collaboration with African researchers. So recently, we're at a conference called CAG, and over there, we've actually had tons of people interested in GeoGPT, and it's sort of spread like wildfire. We've had a lot of interest in follow-on workshops, And we've even started collaborating with a handful of researchers since then. So it's only been about a month, but we've had sort of a lot of good feedback from the community there, uh, both uh, in terms of like the academic interaction, but also in terms of the professional interaction, because GeoGPT is a tool that can support like both consultants and geoscience experts in these various areas, and it can help the local governments tap into resources to help them do more in-depth analysis that they probably wouldn't be able to do otherwise. So, like if you're trying to look at a development plan and make sure that it's in the public interest, GeoGPT is a great tool for helping you do that because you can not only do your original due diligence that you would have done, but it can augment it. So you can actually you can use it to check to see things that you maybe are not that you don't have in-house expertise for. Um, so this is why we've got a lot of good feedback from the both like professional societies, local governments, business leaders, and we had this workshop there with tons of participants, and we got a lot of feedback from people, but ultimately we found that the general consensus was that people sort of felt that the way GeoGPT is designed is sort of consistent with what people expect from like the scientific community as a whole. Now afterwards, we have also have collaborations at University of Nairobi and with the Nelson Mandela University, um, the and the Technical University of Kenya. And then afterwards, there's also some follow-on activity with one of our researchers here is from Sierra Leone. And so he has done a great job of getting GeoGPT plugged into the geoscience community in Sierra Leone. And what's cool is that, on LinkedIn and other places, we've seen a lot of people get really excited about GeoGPT, making posts about what they've done and making tutorials. And we've seen GeoGPT used to perform a lot of research and help people uh, both do their jobs, like do consulting work, but also do exploratory research that uses resources that uh, maybe students in Africa wouldn't have access to. So we sort of target that we're going to have more of these efforts to train more and more users. Right now, we're close to around 50,000 users, which is a drop in the bucket to someone like ChatGPT, but there aren't that many geoscientists in the world. And so being able to provide this sort of capability to 50,000 geoscientists is quite remarkable. And hope that we're able to provide some training to help students in Africa so they can integrate AI into both their sort of toolbox, but also they can use it to sort of catch up, I think, to what we expect in the next upcoming years is going to be like the frontier of geoscience. Now, these other collaborations, I think, are more standard. So, one of the ones that we've worked with pretty closely is Professor Gemog to do construction of the treatise, which is a invertebrate paleontology database. Um, this has, over the past 8 months, he's been able to digitize a huge number of these and make them available online at the treatise.geolox.org. His roughly put it, he said that he would normally spend about a month or two doing some of the digitization, and then now he's able to do that within about a day. And then it doesn't really need to be a whole day. He can digitize it and just sort of gingerly look through it and make sure that everything is correct. So he's gotten a pretty massive speed up. Mike Stevenson is one of our collaborators that also has been very passionate about getting GeoGPT deployed throughout Africa. and helping them build up, in this case, as the taxonomy assistant. We've been working with scientists, other scientists from Europe, and on doing like lithosphere database construction. And we've started collaboration with other professors to look at volcanic data. And one I'm particularly close to is this because I've been working with this professor myself, and we've created these algorithms for doing stratigraphic or biostratigraphy, and we're able to recreate timelines of species. And the normally this is incredibly computationally intensive, but because of the use of AI, we're able to reduce computations by an order of or by 20,000. So it's a huge speed up, and because of this, we're able to get more in-depth, high resolution uh, charts of the species that or alignment of species. Yeah, this is the algorithm here. And then now we're also working with a professor from Nanjing University on AI models for doing X-ray uh, diffraction modeling. So overall, we have a growing list of scientists, but it doesn't stop there. We have lots of other applications, and even though we've only hit 135 countries and 48,000 scientists, we still have an ambition to expand further. And what's cool is that GeoGPT is supported both by the community, the geoscience community, and it's supported here at our laboratory and the province in China. So the director of the laboratory is this pretty well-known guy named Wang Jian, and so he's the creator of Alibaba Cloud. So he is really passionate on making sure that GeoGPT is pushing in the direction of open science, trying to develop AI for useful applications that can help humanity. We have a lot of plans for new releases, but a big one coming up is this upcoming week at AGU, where we should have new models being released, complete new models with new capabilities. So with that, I would say thanks. I'll take some questions and then I can do the demo. So I'll answer the questions real fast, and if people are interested, you can stick around and see a demo.
Yes, we already
Okay.
have a question. So thank you so much. That's so excellent, advanced. And then I will quickly to enable Florin. Florin, I guess you can talk now. Use your microphone. Yes, you can ask Grant directly for your question.
Hey Jin, welcome. Nice to see you again here. And yes, thanks for the very interesting talk. My question goes back to that part when you introduced the model or that paper on the heat flow that was basically written automatically. And I just briefly at the end saw that in this report that was generated, there was a reference list at the end, and that seemed to have only, I think, 4 papers or something like that listed. And of course, my
Oh,
question
yeah.
on that is always, okay, how accurate are you actually in referencing the resources? You mentioned very beginning that you only will also milk resources that have open licenses, but of course, these open licenses usually have a by attribution attached to that. So basically,
Yeah.
everybody assumes that, well, if you use my stuff, I should get cited for it. So that's kind of the context of my question.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So there are two databases that it's going to use. One is the My Library, so that would be anything that's present in My Library. And then the other is the open source, the open access list of papers that we've trained on. And that list is publicly available, so you can see all the papers that we've trained on. Um, and then it will reference those. And unlike ChatGPT, GeoGPT's references exist. So like with ChatGPT, I don't know about you, but like it'll give me references to papers that do not exist. And in this particular case, the references are to the papers that you provided. Now, the references are limited to the ones that it has access to. But it also can go to the internet as well, and it can look up papers there too. So if you end up getting something where it's the the content is not you know sufficient, then you can provide additional papers and you can have it look at those. Hopefully that answers your question, but the reference list is it's as good as the list of papers that you provide.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Florin. And we go to the next one, Gerrit. You can unmute your microphone. You can talk. Gerrit, can you talk? Can you unmute your microphone? You can talk. And anyway, he put his question in the Q&A box, and Grant, you can read, and it's very impressive and useful, but a lack of fair data sources, such as the data stored in the register, often not accessible by literature. I guess a similar question for before. Think of the EU's high-value data set. Of course, this involves a whole circles of publication, but a main entry point is the various data repositories that provide the fair data. Sometimes only as download, but often as a OGC service. So, Grant, how do you handle this?
How do I see this? Oh, that's okay. I can see it. Okay, so sorry. Think of the
Yeah, some of the data
okay.
you
Yeah,
cannot exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So the right now we just focus on anything which is what we is this open access list of publishers and the anything that we've identified as being open access to train the models on. Now, the for other complex, I mean, for Copernicus, I'm not sure what that is going to look like, but but it doesn't have anything where it's tapping into other data sources yet. We actually have this plugin, which you're gonna, I think, we have it's like a beta version right now, which allows us to have access to different websites that have a public facing REST API that conforms to some requirements. And so so then we would be able to integrate fair data sources. So this is on the horizon. And so we're actively moving into this direction. So you can expect some updates within the upcoming months. But it's definitely where we're going into. The big push that we have is actually just kind of getting stuff at a stage to where it's good, people want to use it. The cost to build and operate, who covers these costs? These are kind of covered through the equivalent of like the Chinese Science Foundation, and the business model is effectively the same as the U.S. Energy Labs business model. So you get a public good out of the development of science. And so the Zhejiang province, which is kind of like Hangzhou is perhaps like the Chinese Silicon Valley. Uh, the people that work at this laboratory and the postdocs and the PhD students that we have, they all go off and they work in other jobs. So the experience they have developing GeoGPT is sort of beneficial. And then our user base isn't huge, so we can afford to hope to pay for the computation involved. So it's effectively just covered through basic R&D grants, and the user base is not big enough to, demand that we need more money. Okay, remote sensing, uh, spatial features. This is also something we're developing right now too. So I've been integrating weather models. So the Google's GraphCast, Huawei's Hangul, and so we can, and also some satellite data from some various sources to do like some wildfire and other sort of disaster monitoring. So these are all things that you can expect to come online in the upcoming months. You can drop some pictures in to do some analysis, but tapping into those resources sort of automatically is still, we have it available, so you can go to the GeoGPT site and in fact, if I share my screen here, I can hopefully do this real fast. Can I and show you what the where it is. So over here for like the map generator, they wait, no, the 3D Earth for the 3D Earth model, there's some tables where you can select different data sources and you can visualize them. And we want to just expand this. And we're talking with some companies that have a lot of open source data to have these sorts of data sources available. And so tapping into more remote sensing data is definitely on the books. So thank you for this fascinating insight. You mentioned several times documents and data, access materials being crawled. If I missed it, how does ensure the services such as library repositories, large aggregators are not overloaded by these requests? We operate both types of services ourselves, number of requests. Oh, yeah. So we actually are pretty close to the publishers. So we talk to the publishers directly and make sure that we don't sort of bombard them. Our crawling is not continuous. It's actually pretty methodical. So we pick out data sources that we know that are legit, and then we pull them in. We if we have an operation that was more kind of along the lines of commercial company, then we would have to perhaps spend a lot more time making sure that our scraping is, call it, doesn't overwhelm resources. But currently, because we kind of do a lot of this just in one-offs, we haven't found that being a problem. All right, that's it.
Okay,
Uh,
thank you. I hope that answer your question, but you can ask if you still have some doubts. And okay, I guess Grant, if you want to continue, thank you so much for the answer. I hope people happy with this. Yeah.
okay, so for this demo here, it should be. I'll do just a couple because I think that you can kind of get the point just from a couple of these. So if you go to the chat, this is pretty straightforward. You can ask a question and you can select the model that you want to use, as well as this deep discovery or even deeper discovery feature. I'll let you play with that. It's pretty straightforward. The tools here are the parts that tends to be people are less familiar with. So one of them would be like the reader. So if we take a paper, I tell you, this is the coolest thing is this reader. So you can you can take a paper and you can read it quickly. You can take parts of the paper and you can have it like summarize the contents. You can translate it, which is helpful for people that are not as familiar and that don't speak English natively or reading paper in a different language. The You can take equations and you can extract them as LaTeX. You can take figures. and then you can save them to my library. You can ask it to explain figures and so on. This just makes it a lot easier to review papers. So if you're like a reviewer and you hit a spot where you're like, I don't think this looks right, you can just reference it, you can keep track of it, and then you see if there's any, you can use it to look up stuff, which could possibly be additional references that you could recommend or so on. So I think it helps people do things that normally would take a lot more time. The map chat map generator I had mentioned, so you can try those out yourself. There's some examples here that you can play around with. It makes it pretty straightforward. The agent builder is something that is new and but definitely worth using. So if you go to the agent store, you can go to the agent builder and you can build your own agent. And I'll show you like how that looks. Uh, so let's see the okay. So the here we're going to say create an agent, start from scratch. There's some templates that you can pick from. And you can just start one from scratch. We'll make one here. You put in a prompt that says we're an expert in the coal mine field and we want it to write a report. And that's it. We publish it. And then we can drop in a question. What is the coal distribution in Sansi? It comes back with a report. So it's that one's pretty simple, but it essentially gives you something for creating a prompt, and then afterwards you can ask something more specific. But if you're familiar with building agents, you know that you can make something far more complicated. Now, another one is here, which is quite cool. It's called the Yishan Cloud Trails. This is something that we're working with Jiangxi Normal University on. It's a bird migration assistant, so it has all these records for bird migration in its database. And so you can use it to ask questions about, like, I saw this bird, what does it normally do? Or if you're planning to do something, you could try to avoid, interacting with the wildlife. Um, so as an example, I can take a picture here and I can drop it in. I paste the picture and and I can say, what is this bird? Which seasons does it migrate? What's its migration route? This is the first time I ran this on a Mac. So we'll see if this actually works. I don't see the picture here. Oh, yeah. You can see the reasoning taking place. Describes the map, its migration patterns, and then it pulls up some examples for us. So it's pretty cool. So it's really easy to make an account. You just go to geogpt.zero2x.org and you put in an email address and it'll send you a code and paste the code in and then it'll make an account. Um, and then up here on the left, you can create a team. So you can create a new team of people where you can add a person and a team description. You can add users to your team. And then once you've done that, then they have access to the various tools in your library that you'd want to share with them. So it's easy to make different teams and share your work with them. And so that pretty much covers all the things I feel like worth going over today. I encourage you to go try out some of these other tools and join the GeoGPT community.
Thank you. That's amazing. We have also a question quickly from Alif Sir. Yeah, you can talk. Sorry.
How do I extract more tools? I'm not sure what that means. Can you help? Can you elaborate for me?
And Alif Siren, Sirena, you can unmute your microphone. You can ask.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. So I would like to ask, because I have seen in your left-hand side that you have more tools. How can I get
Oh,
tools?
email us. So if you contact with us, then we can talk to you about the list of tools available. The reason is that like so for some of those, the person that we're working with does not want to make it available, and so once they feel that it's something that we can release to the public, then we would. But they're normally happy to work with people in a call it like once we know who you are. So like with some of the professors, if you're interested in learning more about the tools, just email us. We'll send you a list of the ones that we have access to. And then get you in touch with the researchers. The ones that you have access to are
How can we communicate with you? Is there any chat or whatever? How we
oh they're on the GeoGPT website. There
Yeah,
should be
yeah,
an email
I'm
address.
there. So I'm going home or not?
Yep.
Yes, I'm at home. Where is the chat? Ah, new chat.
So
Okay, yes. Oh, over there. If
so
I
so it's support.geogpt at zhejianglab.org. You
okay, so
can
I can.
you know the I can guarantee you we do not get a lot of people emailing us. So if you email us, we're pretty prompt about responding, and then the we can give you a list of the sort of the ongoing projects that we have. And the same goes for you. If you end up having one where you want help with it, developing it, then the team here can help you do that. And then, the sort of access to that is controlled by you. It's your own tool. So you would have control over who can access it.
That's great. Yeah, that's a great function you can share with your team first, and then you decide to publish. Excellent. And I also thank you already. Our enthusiasm user already start to use it. I hope you can find it very exciting. Okay, we almost come to the end, and I don't see other hands up. And then I really great thanks to Grant to bring us this very advanced development and this to us. We still have a lot of questions, but the time is up. I guess people can contact later for the
Oh yeah.
question.
If my contact isn't there, it's pretty simple. grant.bokeh@gmail.com. So you can email me. Or let's see, who can see this? Everyone.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, and Grant shared his email address and also the support from the Zhejiang Lab. And if you need any help or for some collaboration, you can contact him. With this, I give a great thanks to Grant. Thank you to bring us all this advanced knowledge and amazing technique. And thanks to all our audience for your participation for today. And also thanks for the Frederick work behind the scene to ensure everything work fine. And I hope you have a very nice, for you, Grant, have a very nice evening and have a good
yeah,
rest.
have a good day.